Good morning. I am going to talk to you guys about citing an MLA format, especially in regards to your annotated bibliography. So let's just first go to the annotated bibliography Dropbox. So you're going to go down to Unit 2, and you see that we have the Dropbox here at the beginning of Unit 2. You're going to use the template that I have uploaded. You should use it because it needs to be in that format. And please note the types of sources you need. Okay, so um, please keep these things in mind. These source requirements. So let's now go to the item in Unit 1 where you began creating your outline and note cards. I think this is where I put the citing. Yes, it is, because you had to cite in MLA format for the note cards. But I noticed that some people need a refresher on this MLA format, so I'm going to create this video for that purpose. So you guys know that we are using MLA 8th edition. There are a couple of minor changes between 7 and 8, so please watch carefully how to cite these sources to make sure that you're not doing it in the old way. So this Owl Purdue website is what we're going to be using as our basis for formatting practices for citations because it is updated frequently. Um, and then here is a handout with the information on how to cite a scholarly journal article. However, you may remember that if you get your journal articles from ProQuest NC Live, there is a button next to the Save button that gives you the citation. One common error that I'm seeing is that students will pick that button but then forget to change the format from APA to MLA. So make sure that you don't make that same mistake. So let's go to citing an MLA for online sources because I seriously doubt that any of you guys are going to be using any print sources. And if you do, you can find how to cite them here. But let's talk about online sources first of all. One very important item that most people forget is access dates. So I'm going to highlight here the information on that. We use access dates because websites are not static. So we need to cite when we access them because they do change. Just in case the people that are reading your paper go to that website and they can't find the information that you have cited, well, it used to be there back on the day you accessed it. So that's important to remember. If you use websites, you need to have access dates. The exception for this is when you have a scholarly article, you do not need to submit an access date. Because these are published pieces of information in actual magazines or academic journals rather, they're not going to change like websites change. So you do not need access dates for scholarly journal articles. For every electronic source you use for MLA 8, you need to have a URL. So for electronic sources that are not academic articles, just put the typical URL, excluding the HTTPS. But for academic journals, pretty much all of them have a DOI number. So instead of putting the URL, you put the DOI number. This is a lot of information without examples. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to a student sample of an annotated bibliography, and we're going to talk about what they've done right and wrong. Okay, so this student used the template that I provided. Notice that this student chose to organize their annotated bibliography based on the requirements. So this student had the two news sources first, then did a page break, and did the 10 scholarly articles next, and then did the 8 other sources. keep in mind that for your 8 other sources, you can use more scholarly articles or more news articles. But this is where you can use credible websites that are not academic articles or news sources. You may choose to put an interview here. You may choose to put a blog post here or Twitter post from a credible source. But these are sources that are qualitative in nature. But remember that you need to have more quantitative, but with a touch of qualitative evidence. So let's look at the format here that they've done for their annotated bibliography. Notice here they have a MLA formatted header here. Um, um, we'll take that off because I prefer this instead of MRS. Put the correct date, put your last name and page number. So you're going to put the source name here. And when I say source name, I don't mean the title of the article, I mean the publisher. So here is the publisher of the information. Who gave us this information? It came from the Desert Sun, so it goes here. Now, this citation is mostly correct. We want to know, though, why is it that this news article, a news article, has no author? This is strange. Also, the person did not provide a DOI number. This is curious because it came from ProQuest. Now, this is the important item here. ProQuest doesn't only have academic articles, they have other items too. So this is where you want to make sure that everything you're getting from ProQuest is an academic article, or else you might include in your 10 scholarly articles something that's not actually a scholarly article. This student correctly identified that this is not an academic article, this is a news article. But you might miss that if you're not careful. So let's see if we can find this and if there is an author. Let's fact check this. So this does have an author, and it actually came originally from the Washington Post. This is interesting. So we're going to go back and we're going to note that this needed an author right here. Okay. Also, we could have put a better link, because if we copy this link from ProQuest, I don't think it's going to take us to the actual article. Let's try it. My computer's going slow. Yeah, it's not getting me to the article. I wonder, though, this is NC Live. I wonder if I log in, if it will let me find it. Let's try. I'm going to log into NC Live. I'm going to Sand Hills Community College. Where is it? There it is. And next, Winsmark. And let's see if it'll take us to that. Yeah, see that link doesn't take us to that article. So that was a broken link. And often when you give the URL for ProQuest, it's not going to take you right to it. That's why you need the DOI number as indicated here. Now, unfortunately, because this isn't an actual academic journal, it's not going to have a DOI number, which is why I think the student should have done what I did and looked for the link in Google since it's a news source. All right, let's go back to that sample. Notice that they had an access date because it wasn't a scholarly article. Okay, even though it came from ProQuest, it wasn't a scholarly article, so they can make, this happens a lot, especially in news articles, they make edits on it and they give more information. So it's really important that we have the access date, especially for news articles, but for any website that's not an academic journal. This is something that you were asked to do in English 3, and I think that that's really important, especially considering the difference between qualitative and quantitative evidence. But I'm not going to have you do this. This was done, you guys had in English 3 a standard where you were supposed to look at rhetorical strategies, and we're not necessarily doing that in this class. But you should know if your source is qualitative or quantitative. Um, Often the qualitative stuff is going to have a lot of that pathos. Okay. Um, but anyways, so you do that, and then you have to give a summary of the information from the text. This is similar to what you did in your note cards. You gave a summary for the 5 note cards you gave me, for the 5 sources in the note cards. Remember, this is really important. A summary gives information from the whole article. You're summarizing the whole thing. So it should be more than 1 sentence. Okay? It should be about a paragraph. I noticed a lot of people in their note cards, their paraphrases were longer than their summaries, which confused the heck out of me because a paraphrase is only rephrasing a sentence or two, but a summary is giving me details on the whole article. So I was confused as to why the paraphrases were longer than the summaries. Let's look at the next art source that they have. Um, this is done correctly because we have the author's last name, we have the article name, the publisher name. I'm not sure why it's in there twice. We only need it once. They have the published date, and it should actually be 04 Nov 2016. So this is incorrect. I'm going to put in the comments the correct way to do it. It should be 04 Nov 2016, period. No commas needed. All right. And then they have the access date. Again, we have this issue with that broken link. We could find this article very easily um, by looking in Google, because this is a news article. They have they have links on, online for them. This is interesting. Okay. Um, hmm. Let's try that again. We're not going to Press Reader. We can go to the Washington Post website. Come on. Why isn't it scrolling for me? Anyways, I'm not sure why it's not scrolling, but you can find it in Google if you scroll down. Perhaps, there we go. So it's, yeah, it's here. Thank you. Yay. Okay, so boop. Let's look at a couple more things before we move on. Let's look at some scholarly articles. So, it's important for scholarly articles to include some extra information such as the volume and issue number. For magazines like Rolling Stone or People magazine, you have volume and issue numbers. This should be included here also. And we have some errors here with the punctuation, but actually the order's right this time. This student did not have an access date for this because you don't need one for a scholarly article. Okay, so you don't need it here, but I do wish that the DOI number was included. Let's see if we can find one with a DOI number. No, they don't have DOI numbers. Sad. It's not required, but I really want you to put them in there. There's some formatting issues here. You guys need to know also that this do a hanging indent for MLA citation. To do this, you select the whole citation, you go to paragraphing, or sorry, indent. Let's do indentation options, and you do the hanging indent, okay? So you apply that. Let's try it. See? Just like that. And that's what you see here for the citation. That's required. Hanging indent for each one. Let's see if we can find an example of a DOI number. Hmm. Oh, I could search for DOI. Ah, there it is. See, this is an example of what a DOI looks like. So for academic articles, include that.